Hello everyone, Namaste. I am Swati Verma. I have been asked to share my experience of implementing IYT strategies in my teaching practice and then how I developed a behavior plan using those strategies. Firstly, I would like to introduce myself to you all. I have been associated with this teaching field for 10 years now. I was a teacher back in India, and after coming to New Zealand, I took a break from my teaching career for 7.5 years to raise my two beautiful daughters. Thereafter, I applied for teacher's registration and received it after completing the TER course successfully. That's how my New Zealand teaching journey began, and shortly I was advised to join the IYT course, that is the Incredible Years Teachers Program. It was really an incredible course as it gave me the reassurance that the strategies I have been using in my past teaching career are still helpful, and I also learned some new great strategies to deal with behavioral children in the classroom. According to James Comer, no significant learning can occur without a significant relationship. I am a strong believer of this, and hence I always try to build a positive relationship with my students. It really feels awesome when the children whom I taught a few years ago still come up to me and share their feelings through cards, letters, etc. Last year was my first time dealing with a behavioral child in my own classroom. He was bright and capable, but he found it very difficult to manage himself. He had a tendency of frequently calling out, hitting others, biting others. He used to start screaming and yelling by saying no if he didn't want to do something. It was the perfect time for me to implement the IYT strategies to deal with such a student. One of the strategies says to nurture a positive relationship with students. For that, I think we should give time to know more about the child. So I tried to gather as much information as possible about the child through various sources, such as going through the notes of his previous year's teacher, having meetings with his parents to know more about his likes, his dislikes, and by having regular conversations with my colleagues at school. At the beginning of the year, we as teachers must design a classroom treaty involving students' voice, or set clear classroom rules and also the consequences for not following the rules. We also designed our classroom treaty that worked well for most of the students, and it also worked well for him at the beginning. Later, he struggled with the rules and he then had the consequences. The most crucial thing in this is to maintain consistency in implementing the rules so that the students own the responsibility of their own behavior. Also, running a structured program in the classroom helps such behavioral students and children with anxiety to stay calm and settled most of the time. Slight changes in the daily schedule would be quite easily acceptable by other children, but even a slight change in the schedule would disappoint him a lot. He would start screaming by saying no to the things that would disrupt the learning of the whole class. Being an emotional person myself, at times I found it very difficult to handle such a loud noise in the classroom. Hence, if I had to make even a wee change in the schedule, I used to make sure to have a conversation with him before school. So I think running a structured program in the classroom is very helpful for such children. Apart from this, parents and teacher collaboration is vital. According to Henry Ford, coming together is a beginning, keeping together is progress, and working together is success. Keeping this in mind, I used to have regular conversations with either his mom or his grandmother to discuss about his social and academic progress at school. I found his mom to be feeling quite anxious about his behavior at school. So our RTLB and I had a detailed discussion about the ongoing issues, and we concluded to develop a detailed behavior plan for him. To design a behavior plan, the learning at the IYT course came to rescue. In my opinion, if we keep the following points in mind, then we can develop an effective behavior plan. First, identifying negative behaviors. I focused on two specific behaviors, that is his tendency of saying no to instructions and his tendency of frequently hitting others on purpose. Second, reason of occurrence of misbehavior. In his case, it occurred firstly to gain teacher or peer attention and sometimes to avoid some tasks which he didn't like to do, such as writing. Third, target positive opposite replacement behaviors to increase. For every negative student behavior, it's important for us as teachers to identify a positive opposite behavior to replace it with. In this case, for the child's tendency of frequently calling out, I used to use the proximal praise to appreciate those students who quietly put their hand up and waited patiently for their turn. Fourth, determine specific incentives for desired behaviors. For him, I felt that he would benefit more from non-tangible incentives, such as extra reading time at the library, a few extra minutes on the iPad, etc. Fifth, select specific consequences for negative behaviors. Finally, it's important to clearly outline the specific consequences for the misbehaviors in the plan. Keeping in mind the school's behavior policy and incorporating the IYT strategies, I designed the behavior plan under the able guidance of our RTLB. It outlined each and every step to be taken when a behavior starts escalating. It was a plan that focused on the two specific negative behaviors. This was the plan. Firstly, if he would not follow the instructions or if he would say no to the instructions, then I used to follow these steps. But if he would hit someone on purpose, which was not at all acceptable, then he was expected to go straight away to the thinking spot. The black color indicates the steps that I used to follow when he didn't follow the instructions. The blue color indicates the steps which I followed when he used to hit someone on purpose. Finally, both the misbehaviors ended up in involving the senior management team if required. Please feel free to go through this plan later if you wish to. I found this plan to be extremely useful as it allowed to maintain the consistency in implementing the rules. The parents, senior management team, our RTLB were all on the same page, and it also helped our relievers to implement the plan in my absence. Although developing the plan was a meticulous and a time-consuming process, it was worth it. Being an emotional person, initially took a while for me to get used to it and to gain confidence in executing it in the whole class scenario. Gradually, I got used to it. Overall, I would say the behavior plan was successful, although I had to implement it several times in the classroom, but I had to involve the senior management team only a few number of times. Apart from him, I also had a handful of children who always kept me on my toes and a few tricky parents to deal with. It tested my level of patience every day and required a tremendous amount of balance between my professional life and my well-being. I could survive last year only because of a very strong support system at home and at school. I'm truly blessed to have a loving and caring husband who would always listen to me and would suggest ways to handle tricky situations. I'm extremely fortunate to have such a supportive senior management team who always stood by me in those difficult times. I had a very calm and supportive team leader who would always give time to discuss my problems. I had very helpful and cooperative teacher aides. Last but not the least, I was under the able guidance of a very experienced RTLB who was always available when I needed her. I couldn't thank her enough for all her time, for the meetings that we had before school, at morning tea times, at lunch times, to discuss various strategies and to design the behavior plan for the child. I would really encourage teachers who have behavioral children in their classroom to seek support in developing a behavioral plan, and even better, to do an IYT program. That's all from me today. Thank you for watching.